we open our eyes to darkness. A silence so complete, it is almost unsettling. A void untouched by time. Then, slowly, the black emptiness begins to shimmer. Dust, illuminated by the faint newborn light of a star, starts to swirl. We are standing at the edge of creation, 4.6 billion years ago, within a vast rotating cloud of gas and cosmic debris, the cradle of our solar system. We can almost feel the pull of gravity, gentle at first, but growing ever stronger. Particles of rock, ice, and metal drift through the void, colliding and merging in a slow cosmic dance. Every impact releases energy, a flash of heat, a spark of creation. What we are witnessing is the beginning of something immense, something familiar, yet unrecognizable. The birth of a world that will one day be called Earth. There are no oceans yet, no continents, no sky, just a violent disk of matter orbiting a young, blazing sun. In this swirling chaos, order is slowly emerging. Dust becomes pebbles, pebbles become boulders, boulders become mountains adrift in space. And then, through countless collisions over millions of years, gravity assembles a new planet from the wreckage of stars. As we float closer, we see it, a glowing sphere of molten rock, red and angry, its surface a churning sea of lava. Lightning splits the dense, toxic air and rivers of fire race across the horizon. The young Earth is not a place of peace. It is a world in torment, reshaped every second by impacts and eruptions. Yet in this violence lies potential. The first step toward everything that will ever live, breathe, or think. When we think of creation, we often imagine serenity, light, and life emerging gently. But Earth's creation was no gentle birth. It was a symphony of destruction. A ballet of collisions and explosions played out on a scale so vast that even now it humbles our imagination. As we hover above this fiery planet, it's difficult to connect this vision of chaos to the blue world we know. But every mountain, every ocean, every living creature traces its ancestry back to this inferno. This is where our story begins, not in peace but in fire. We travel further back in time, before the planet even existed. The sun itself is new, a young star still gathering strength, blazing with ferocity as it pulls in the last remnants of its birth cloud. Round it, dust and debris spin in an endless storm, colliding and merging under the invisible hand of gravity. Somewhere within this storm, a small region becomes denser than the rest. It begins to clump, to draw in material to grow. The process is slow, but unstoppable. Over millions of years, the constant bombardment of rock and metal fuses into something larger, a planetesimal, a planetary seed. Each impact releases unimaginable heat, melting the young surface again and again. Soon the entire sphere glows like a forge. Heavy elements like iron and nickel sink inward, forming a metallic core. While lighter materials float above, creating the mantle and crust, the layers of Earth are born in this chaos, forged by fire and refined by time. You can almost sense the rhythm of the collisions. The soundless impacts shake the planet's surface. Molten waves roll like tides of magma, reshaping the young world every moment. For millions of years, this relentless formation continues, sculpting the foundation of our home. But this is not yet a stable Earth. The planet's surface is a hostile ocean of lava. Asteroids and comets still rain down from the sky, as the air is thick with carbon dioxide, methane, and steam, a suffocating mix that blots out the sun. The pressure is immense, the temperature unbearable. And yet this fiery world holds promise. Deep within the molten seas, the heavy core spins faster and faster. It generates a magnetic field, a force that billions of years later will protect our planet from deadly radiation and preserve the fragile atmosphere that life depends on. Even in its infancy, Earth is already laying the groundwork for the miracle to come. We drift above the newborn planet, gazing upon a sight that feels both terrifying and magnificent. The horizon glows red. The surface shifts like living fire. Explosions ripple outward where asteroids impact, leaving vast scars that quickly melt and vanish beneath waves of lava. This is not destruction. This is creation through transformation. As the surface churns, gases escape from the molten rock, rising to form the first atmosphere. It is not breathable, filled with carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and ammonia, but it marks the beginning of an envelope that will one day cradle life. Volcanoes erupt endlessly, releasing steam and dust into the air, slowly thickening the skies. For a moment, we see Earth as a glowing ember against the darkness of space, a beacon of change in an otherwise cold, silent universe. Around it, other worlds are being born. Mercury, Venus, Mars, each will take a different path, but ours will become something extraordinary. When we look at this violent molten sphere, we are witnessing not just the creation of a planet, but the prelude to every story ever told. The rocks that boil beneath us will one day cool into continents. The gases that suffocate now will one day become the air we breathe. The same gravity that binds this chaos together will one day hold oceans, forests, and cities upon its surface. And as we watch, one truth becomes clear: everything we are began here in this chaos. We were forged from fire, tempered by time, and shaped by chance. We are quite literally children of the storm. This is the beginning of our journey, the story of how Earth was born from destruction, how it tamed the violence of the cosmos, and how it became a world capable of life. And as we step into that story, one question echoes through the darkness: how did chaos give birth to home? The cosmic beginning. When we look across the expanse of space, we see order, planets tracing elegant paths, moons gliding in perfect synchrony, stars burning steadily in the night. But in the beginning, there was no such harmony.
Ice.
The solar system was a chaotic construction site, a storm of dust, rock, and ice, spinning violently around a young, unstable sun. Every inch of space was filled with debris colliding at tremendous speed, shattering and reforming in a never-ending cycle of creation and destruction. We float through this ancient maelstrom, surrounded by drifting clouds of gas and mineral fragments. To our eyes, it seems lifeless, but physics itself is alive here. Gravity is the sculptor, constantly pulling the scattered remnants of older stars together, molding them into new worlds. In every corner of this cosmic disk, matter gathers, spinning faster as it collapses inward. The more it collapses, the hotter it becomes, a fiery nursery where planets are born from the ashes of their ancestors. Our sun, only a few million years old, is still growing, feeding on the gas and dust that swirl around it. Its surface is turbulent, bursting with solar flares that stretch millions of kilometers into space. These storms hurl radiation into the surrounding disk, igniting it with energy and setting the stage for the drama to come. Within that storm, tiny grains of silicon and carbon begin to stick together, forming microscopic seeds. Each of those seeds holds the potential to become a planet, a moon, or an asteroid, perhaps even a home for life one day. Over millions of years, these grains accumulate. The collisions are frequent, and though they are gentle at first, they grow more violent as the bodies become larger. We watch as pebbles become rocks, rocks become boulders, and boulders become mountain-sized fragments, the first planetesimals. Gravity now exerts its full power. The larger an object becomes, the stronger its pull on nearby material, accelerating its growth in a runaway cascade. The solar disk, once uniform, now teems with competing worlds, each trying to claim its share of matter. And then, amidst the chaos, a particular region of the disk, not too close to the sun's scorching heat, not too far into the frozen reaches of space, begins to dominate. Here, the perfect balance of temperature and material density gives rise to something special. It is in this zone, the third from the sun, where our planet begins to take shape. We watch the collisions intensify, sparks of molten rock bursting into space with every impact. Slowly, the outline of a world begins to emerge, glowing red-hot and spinning faster with each passing millennium. This is Proto-Earth, a world without a name, without oceans or sky, but with the unmistakable promise of potential. It is roughly the size of Mars now, its surface a rolling ocean of lava. The constant impacts deliver energy, melting rock and releasing gases that form the earliest whispers of an atmosphere. From space, we can see flashes of light where new craters are born and vanish in seconds beneath waves of molten stone. Every second is a violent birth, every impact a brushstroke in the painting of a planet. Yet even in the heart of this destruction, nature's precision is at work. Inside the molten interior, elements begin to separate by density. The heaviest iron and nickel sink toward the center, forming a metallic core. Around it, a mantle of molten silicates circulates slowly, carrying heat outward. Without us even realizing it, the structure of the Earth we know today is already taking shape. We drift closer and can almost feel the energy radiating from the planet's surface. Temperatures reach thousands of degrees. Rivers of magma stretch for thousands of kilometers. Volcanic fountains eject material into the thin atmosphere, while shock waves ripple across the planet from each collision. It is a world where time moves differently, where a million years is only a heartbeat, and evolution is sculpted not by life, but by fire and gravity. As the young Earth grows, it competes for survival with countless other worlds forming nearby. Some are swallowed by larger neighbors. Others are flung out of the solar system entirely. The gravitational dance between these embryonic planets is delicate and ruthless. One moment, two worlds circle each other in balance. The next, they collide in a flash of annihilation. Only the most stable, the most resilient will endure. By pure chance, or perhaps cosmic inevitability, our Earth survives. Eventually, the final great collisions subside. The solar disk begins to clear, swept clean by solar winds from the maturing sun. What remains are the planets Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, each unique, each carrying the imprint of its violent birth. Our own planet now stands as a glowing molten sphere, surrounded by a halo of debris and vapor. The energy of its formation still pulses from within, driving convection currents that will one day shape continents and oceans. When we gaze upon it now, we see not just molten rock, but the early foundation of everything to come, the deep interior that will generate the magnetic field, the crust that will one day bear continents, the atmosphere that will evolve into the air we breathe. Everything that defines our planet, its heat, its magnetism, its chemistry is being forged in these first few 100 million years. In the vastness of time, this stage will pass quickly, but its impact will last forever. Without these collisions, without the chaos, the Earth would never have become the stable, life-supporting world we know. It is the paradox of creation. Only through violence can balance emerge. Same processes that destroy also give birth. We hover above this world, our world still glowing in the darkness of early space. Round us, fragments of the solar system drift silently, remnants of collisions long past. The sun burns steadily now, a beacon in the cosmic night. The age of formation is ending, but the age of transformation is about to begin. Collisions and transformation. The Earth has survived the chaos of creation, but peace has not yet come. The young solar system is still wild and crowded, filled with leftover planetesimals and wandering bodies that cross orbits like cosmic predators. Every few thousand years, one finds its mark. Some graze our planet and vanish into space again. Others strike head-on, releasing the power of millions of volcanoes in a single moment. Each impact reshapes the surface, vaporizes rock, and deepens the scars of creation. We drift above the world as another collision approaches, a sphere the size of Mars, hurtling through the blackness at unimaginable speed. This is a rogue protoplanet formed in a neighboring orbit. For tens of millions of years, it has circled the Sun in near harmony with Earth, their paths growing closer with each pass. The dance is inevitable, and one day, gravity's slow pull draws them together for a meeting that will define both their destinies. The collision is beyond comprehension. They strikes Earth at an oblique angle, its molten crust tearing through ours like a blade of fire. The impact releases more energy than any event in the planet's history, enough to melt the entire surface, to vaporize mountains, to turn rock itself into vapor. A shockwave races through the globe, shaking it to its core, where continents might one day rise, oceans of magma boil and churn, swallowing the remains of both worlds. For a moment, the Earth ceases to exist as a solid planet. The outer layers of both bodies are ejected into space, a halo of glowing debris encircling the ruined sphere below. The rest of Theia, its iron core intact, plunges deep into Earth's center, merging with our own and creating a single, enormous metallic heart. That collision gives our planet something extraordinary, a vast, dynamic core capable of generating a magnetic field strong enough to shield life billions of years later. We drift above the aftermath, and what we see is almost unrecognizable. The entire planet glows white-hot, a ball of molten rock surrounded by a cloud of incandescent vapor. For tens of thousands of years, the debris from the collision orbits chaotically, colliding and merging again, drawn together by gravity into a glowing ring. Over time, that ring coalesces into a single, smaller sphere, our moon, born from the ashes of destruction. We watch as it pulls itself together, cooling as it spins away from Earth, still glowing faintly red in the darkness. The gravity between the two worlds locks them into a partnership that will endure for billions of years. The moon's presence stabilizes Earth's tilt, slowing its rotation and preventing wild climatic swings. Without it, the planet's seasons would be erratic, its climate unpredictable, its potential for life uncertain. From a single act of devastation, a guardian is born, one that will watch over Earth for the rest of time. The nights after the impact would have been unlike anything we could imagine. The sky glowed with molten dust. Fragments of the collision streaked across the heavens, raining back down as fire. The moon loomed massive and close, perhaps 10 times larger in the sky than it appears today. Each night it rose from the inferno, its face half-formed, its craters fresh and molten. The earth beneath it shimmered like a furnace, oceans of lava reflecting its glow. But slowly, the violence began to fade. The molten surface started to cool. Thick clouds of vapor condensed and fell as torrential rain, only to evaporate again upon contact with the searing rock. The process repeated endlessly for millennia as the planet shed its heat into space. Gradually, a thin crust began to form, fragile at first, constantly shattered by impacts, but growing thicker as the bombardment subsided. As Earth cooled, gases trapped within the molten rock continued to escape, forming a dense, toxic atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and sulfur compounds filled the sky, creating an orange haze that blotted out the sun. Lightning storms raged constantly, igniting the volatile gases. Yet for all its hostility, this primitive atmosphere marked a crucial transition. The Earth now possessed an envelope of air, a shield against the vacuum of space, and a reservoir of the ingredients that would one day give rise to oceans and life. The impact with Theia didn't just give Earth its moon, it transformed the planet's very nature. It altered the composition of the crust, mixed elements from deep within, and set the pace of Earth's rotation. A single day was now roughly 6 hours long, fast enough to keep the planet's molten interior churning, fueling the dynamo effect that would sustain its magnetic field. The collision also tilted Earth's axis, giving us the rhythmic cycle of seasons, a delicate balance between stability and change that would shape the evolution of life billions of years later. We look upon this world now, scarred, glowing, and restless, and begin to see the outline of the planet we know. Beneath the swirling storms and seas of lava, the continents of the future are already hidden, locked within the mantle-like secrets waiting to be revealed. The moon, still orbiting close, tugs at the molten tides, stirring them in rhythm with its path. With every rotation, the world becomes slightly more stable, slightly more defined. Eventually, the bombardment wanes. The solar system begins to settle into its final form. The leftover debris, asteroids, comets, fragments of failed worlds, either collide with existing planets or are swept away by the solar wind. The sun burns more steadily now, its radiation shaping the chemistry of the remaining atmospheres. Around it, the once chaotic disk has become a system of order, and Earth, still cooling, stands as one of its most promising children. From destruction has come definition. From violence, balance. The Earth, once indistinguishable from chaos itself, now spins with rhythm and purpose. The moon's pull slows the rotation, tides begin to stir, and the foundations of the oceans are being laid. In the cosmic scale of time, this transformation is a heartbeat, a few tens of millions of years. But for our planet, it marks the most significant metamorphosis in its existence. It is no longer merely a sphere of molten rock. It is a world in transition, ready to host the next stage of creation. We leave behind the age of impact and fire and look ahead to an Earth that begins to breathe. A world that will cool, condense, and someday, against all odds, harbor life. Cooling in oceans, the fire is fading. For tens of millions of years, Earth's molten seas have boiled and flowed endlessly, reshaped by impacts and tides. But now, the great collisions have nearly ceased. The planet's skin, once a glowing ocean of magma, begins to solidify into dark, jagged rock. The surface no longer ripples like liquid fire. Instead, it cracks, hardens, and cools beneath a thickening blanket of atmosphere. The first crust of Earth has formed, fragile, unstable, but finally solid ground. We hover above this young, cooling world and see storms unlike any that exist today. The sky is a swirling, suffocating orange, heavy with carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and steam. Lightning streaks through clouds of volcanic gas, igniting sulfurous plumes that rise from thousands of erupting volcanoes. The air is dense, hot enough to melt metal, but above the chaos, something new begins to stir: condensation. Water vapor, once trapped in the inferno of molten rock, now begins to cool and condense. Droplets form, gather, and fall. For the first time in history, rain touches the surface of Earth. It hisses violently as it strikes the still hot crust, evaporating instantly into steam. But the atmosphere is thick, the cooling relentless, and the rain does not stop. It falls for thousands of years, an endless torrential storm that reshapes the planet below. Each drop of water carries a story. Some come from within the Earth itself, released by volcanic gases as the mantle cooled. Others were delivered from the heavens, carried by icy comets that bombarded the planet in the aftermath of formation. Between sky and stone, these waters meet, and in that meeting, something extraordinary begins. The rain becomes rivers. Rivers carve channels through the newly formed crust, dissolving minerals, washing them into low-lying basins. Over millennia, those basins fill, growing deeper and wider until they merge into vast bodies of water. The first oceans are born, dark, acidic, and steaming beneath the choking sky. To us, they would seem alien, toxic, and lifeless. But they are the beginnings of something that will one day shimmer blue and cradle life itself. We drift across this newborn ocean, its surface roiling with heat. Steam rises in endless waves, turning the horizon into a blurred mirage. Beneath the waves, molten rock still moves, breaking through the thin crust to form islands of basalt that hiss and crumble. The continents do not yet exist. The planet's surface is a restless sea of lava and water, locked in eternal combat. But slowly, water wins. The temperature drops below the boiling point, the steam thins, and the once fiery Earth begins to cool into a world of stone and sea. The sky, still dense with gases, filters the light of the young sun into a dull reddish glow. The sun itself is dimmer than it will be in our age, about 70% as bright, but the thick atmosphere traps heat, keeping the oceans from freezing. Methane, carbon dioxide, and ammonia act as natural blankets, maintaining the delicate warmth necessary for liquid water. By a remarkable balance of chemistry and circumstance, Earth becomes neither frozen nor aflame, but temperate, an oasis forming in the void. The process is violent yet beautiful. Volcanic plumes continue to pump gases into the atmosphere: water vapor, carbon dioxide, sulfur, and as they cool, clouds form in endless layers, circling the globe. Thunderstorms sweep across the oceans, accompanied by lightning so intense that it flashes even through the day. Each strike breaks molecules apart and forges new ones. Hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, the building blocks of chemistry that will one day create life. The rain continues, the seas deepen. Over millions of years, Earth transforms from a molten sphere into a water planet. More than 2/3 of its surface becomes covered in liquid oceans. From orbit, the world now gleams with a faint bluish tint, veiled by white clouds. The fiery birth has given way to calm. The red planet has turned blue. But this tranquility is deceptive. Beneath the oceans, the crust is alive with motion. Heat from the interior escapes through cracks and fissures, forming undersea volcanoes that belch minerals and gases into the water. Around these volcanic vents, chemical reactions occur, simple at first, but rich with potential. It is here in the hidden depths that the next chapter of Earth's story will quietly begin. From our vantage point, we can see the first hints of stability. The magnetic field generated by the molten core now shields the surface from the sun's radiation, preserving the atmosphere and protecting the oceans. The carbon dioxide in the air dissolves into the water, forming carbonates that settle onto the ocean floor. Slowly, the runaway greenhouse begins to ease, and the temperature falls into balance. The cycle of feedback between land, air, and sea is established, creating the world's first climate. We can almost imagine standing upon the jagged coast of this newborn ocean. Sky thick and heavy above, the horizon dark and endless. There are no birds, no trees, no sounds, except the hiss of rain and the rumble of distant thunder. Yet there is an energy in the air, an anticipation. Every molecule of water, every flash of lightning, every ripple across the ocean's surface carries the possibility of transformation. This is the stage upon which life will one day emerge. Ingredients are here: water, minerals, heat, and time. The oceans, once the result of destruction, are now the cradle of potential. Beneath their surface, chemistry begins to weave its first threads of complexity. Amino acids, simple molecules, and organic compounds begin to form, tossed and mixed by the restless tides. The universe, through fire and chaos, has created a laboratory for creation itself. The Earth of this age would be unrecognizable to us, yet somehow deeply familiar. The continents we know do not yet exist, but the forces that will shape them are already stirring. Tectonic plates shift beneath the ocean floor, driven by the heat of the core, creating ridges, trenches, and islands. Over billions of years, these restless movements will sculpt the surface into the pattern we call home. But for now, the planet rests, its surface breathing slowly under a canopy of storm and steam. We hover above, watching the transformation unfold, a world that was once fire, now dressed in water and cloud. The violence of its birth has passed, replaced by a fragile calm. The Earth is no longer a newborn, but an adolescent, scarred and restless, yet capable of something miraculous. And as we watch the rain fade, we realize that we are witnessing the greatest transition in planetary history. The moment when destruction gave way to creation, when chaos gave way to possibility, when a barren sphere became the only known world where oceans sing under sunlight. Reflection and the dawn of life. The storms have quieted. For the first time, the skies of Earth begin to clear, revealing a dim sun struggling to break through layers of thick cloud. The rain still falls, but not endlessly. It now follows cycles, guided by temperature and wind. The molten crust beneath the oceans has hardened into dark basalt, and the planet's heartbeat, the slow churning of mantle convection, begins to set the rhythm of the world. We float above the planet and see a transformation complete. The inferno that once raged across the surface has been replaced by vast oceans stretching from horizon to horizon. Here and there, volcanic islands pierce the water's surface, releasing plumes of steam and smoke into the heavy air. The atmosphere is thick, filled with carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and traces of methane, toxic to us, but essential to what is about to unfold. This is not yet a world of life, but one preparing for it. Lightning flickers across the sky, a relentless staccato of energy. Each bolt splits the atmosphere's gases into fragments, recombining them into new molecules: hydrogen cyanide, formaldehyde, and simple organic compounds. These substances fall into the oceans below, where they meet minerals leached from the seafloor: iron, nickel, and silicates. The chemistry is primitive, but powerful. It is the first whisper of what will one day be called biology. We descend closer, into the steaming shallows of the early ocean. The water is dark and murky, filled with microscopic particles. It is hot, nearly boiling in places, but within these conditions, reactions begin to occur. Amino acids form spontaneously, combining into chains that twist and fold. Fatty molecules gather into bubbles, creating fragile membranes that separate inside from out. For the first time, order arises from chaos, the earliest hints of self-organization. The scene is not peaceful. The air crackles with lightning. Volcanic vents roar beneath the sea. Ultraviolet light from the young sun beats down through the haze. Yet these extremes are not obstacles, they are catalysts. The constant energy keeps the reactions going, breaking and remaking bonds, pushing complexity forward. The oceans are restless laboratories, conducting 1 billion experiments every second. Most end in failure, but a few endure. We can almost sense it, that moment of transition when chemistry crosses into biology. Perhaps it happens near a hydrothermal vent, deep on the ocean floor, where scalding water rich in minerals meets the cold of the surrounding sea. Within the mineral pores of these vents, molecules become trapped, react, and multiply. They form chains that can copy themselves, imperfectly, but persistently. These self-replicating structures are not yet alive, but they carry the potential for evolution, for the endless refining of form and function that will define life forever after. Time on this scale is meaningless to us. Millions of years pass as these processes continue. The oceans churn, continents shift, climates swing between extremes. But the chemistry remains constant, slow, patient, inexorable. And then somewhere in the quiet depths of a tide pool or the shadow of a vent, one molecule changes everything. It not only replicates but also influences its surroundings, altering the environment in its favor. The line between matter and life blurs, and Earth, for the first time, is no longer alone. We rise above the planet once more, and though we cannot yet see the difference, everything has changed. The oceans now contain something new, potential that can grow, adapt, and remember. These microscopic pioneers will endure for billions of years, diversifying into forms so varied and wondrous that they will one day walk upon the very continents that have yet to form. The birth of Earth is complete, and the birth of life has begun. We look upon this world and recognize it as both alien and familiar. Its air is thick, its light dim, its landscape strange, but beneath the strangeness lies the same rhythms we know today. Rain falls, rivers flow, oceans rise and fall. Volcanoes shape the land, winds sculpt the surface. The same forces that will one day erode mountains and carve valleys are already at work, laying the foundation for the future. If we listen closely, we can almost hear the echoes of what's to come, the distant hum of evolution, the slow breathing of a planet finding balance. Every continent that will ever exist is locked within the crust. Every living thing that will ever emerge depends on the elements being forged and recycled in these waters. Carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, the building blocks of life are already dancing together, just waiting for the right sequence of chance to create complexity. We are witnessing the most profound transformation in the history of the cosmos, the moment when a world of fire and rock becomes capable of thought and memory. It is humbling to realize that the same atoms swirling here, carbon from ancient stars, hydrogen from the dawn of time, will one day form forests, oceans, and minds that look back at the stars in wonder. Every living thing that will ever exist, including us, begins in this ocean of possibility. Even now, the young Earth remains restless. Asteroids still occasionally strike, volcanoes still roar. Continents are not yet stable. But the planet endures. Its atmosphere shields its fragile chemistry, its magnetic field deflects the sun's fury, and its rotation brings the first semblance of rhythm, day and night, warmth and cold, light and shadow. These cycles will govern life from its first breath to its last. We drift high above the world and see it whole for the first time, a blue sphere wrapped in white floating through the darkness. It is no longer a chaotic inferno or a lifeless rock. It is a dynamic, evolving system, the only known planet capable of reflection, adaptation, and creativity. And all of it began here, in the interplay between fire, stone, water, and time. When we think of Earth now, it is easy to forget the violence that birthed it. The gentle rain, the soft winds, the green forests, all are descendants of storms, magma, and collisions beyond imagining. Creation and destruction are not opposites. They are partners in the same eternal cycle. The calm we know today exists only because of the fury that came before. We close our eyes and imagine the story in reverse, the continents breaking apart, the oceans boiling away, the planet returning to fire, to dust, to stardust once more. The same elements will scatter across the galaxy, waiting to be reborn in another star, another world, another beginning. This is the way of the universe. Nothing is ever lost, only transformed. And in that transformation lies a kind of immortality. The atoms that make us, the iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, the carbon in our cells, all were forged in ancient stars, molded in planetary fire, and tempered by the storms of a young Earth. We are not separate from this story. We are this story. The birth of Earth is the birth of us. Chaos that forged the planet forged the conditions for consciousness. The same gravity that shaped the world still holds us to it, not just physically, but in every breath we take, every drop of water we drink, every heartbeat that echoes the pulse of the planet beneath our feet. And as we gaze upon this blue world, fragile, finite, yet endlessly alive, we understand the truth that unites science and wonder. The universe does not simply create worlds, it creates stories. And we are the latest chapter in Earth's story of fire and time.